All right, and welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting here on quote-unquote national championship night, depending on who you ask. This technically might be a consolation game. If you've been living under a rock for the last, week, UCF has been crowned their self-proclaimed college football national champions, and this game doesn't matter. So I got Spike in the studio with me. Anthony's taking a hiatus. I think he had too much hookers and blow on wildcard weekend, so I think that's his definition of wildcard weekend.
That does tend to happen, especially when you live in Vegas, but I am very much looking forward to breaking down the Golden Globes with you tonight.
I did not watch those, so I will be listening on bended knee in anticipation of who won what, because I couldn't tell you the shit about Golden Globes.
Yeah, I don't actually know either. I know who won just because on the way home from the Knights game, my wife looked it up and had to regale me with those. But
I mean, I get it. It's an award ceremony just like any others. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You've got Oscars, you've got Golden Globes, you've got the Screen Actors. How many of the fucking awards do you need? How many award shows do you need?
That's a good question because, I mean, it's really just the elite telling the elite how great they all are. So, yeah, they probably could trim those down one or two.
Yeah, I'm sure there was just a big Trump-bashing gala like they always tend to do.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, well, let's talk about the elite of the elite in sports, because that's what kind of happened this weekend. The top 12 teams entered into the second season, and 8 of them were in play this weekend, also known as Wild Card Weekend, and it was definitely wild, to say the least.
That was a couple of crazy games, a couple of nail-biters for different reasons. And, that was a good weekend of football.
If you are listening to the show and you want to get a hold of us at any point in time, you can get a hold of us on all of our social media platforms. We are on Twitter, pretty active, at Vegas Squares. Facebook.com/Vegas Squares. Instagram is Vegas Squares Podcast. You can email us, vegassquares@gmail.com. You can, God, what else do we have? We have so many different things. We have... We're on YouTube. You can catch our podcasts on YouTube. Just search Vegas Squares Podcast. You can check us out on our website, www.vegassquares.com. And I think that's it, but there's probably more. You can find us out in other places. I think pornhub.com/Vegas Squares.
There are so many different social media sites out there. It's impossible to be active on all of them. I don't know how people do it unless they have like a paid publicist. Unless you have a paid publicist you haven't told me about.
I do not. I don't even pay you guys. I'm going to pay a publicist. But, we are on, also, I'd like to introduce our brand new affiliation with 12 Ounce Sports Radio. Our first episode aired Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 on the East Coast. And it was pretty cool. I listened to it on the way home from work, which was a pretty cool experience. So if you can, check us out Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on 12 Ounce Sports Radio, and Saturday mornings at 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. I get all my time zones mixed up. Just check us out on there. Just shoot them an email, but just play the Vegas Squares podcast back to back to back. I know there's other things on there. They broadcast live minor league hockey though. So
do they really?
Yeah, their main thing is minor league hockey live broadcast.
That's awesome. I got to check that out.
So I was listening to that one day in the car too as well, because you just hook up the auxiliary cord here. And obviously, I have an older car, so I'm still rocking the auxiliary cord versus the Bluetooth.
Oh, hell yeah.
It works, man. So, you give those guys a check out. Give them a follow on Twitter. It's 12OZ Sports. That's their Twitter handle. And then if you want to check them out on the website, it's 12ozsportsradio.com. All right, well, let's dive into the football games without further ado. The first game was the Chiefs and the Titans. And, well, let's look at it from the perspective. It was definitely an upset, I think, no matter who you ask.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, in Kansas City, you have a 21-0 halftime, 21-3 halftime?
21-3 halftime, yeah.
21-3 halftime. Your first thoughts in that situation? I mean, it's easy to when we say, to place blame on somebody, but was it more of a meltdown or more of just a good comeback from the Titans?
No, I think it was just Kansas City being too safe and too playing not to lose. That old cliche where they didn't press. They didn't have the killer instinct to step on Tennessee's throat and finish them off. They just couldn't do it. I don't know why. Like I didn't
You see this all the time in the NFL, though. It's like this whole respect thing. You don't want to run up the score. It's like, but this happens,
right? And I mean, the flip side of that is I didn't see anything spectacular out of Tennessee that would have made me think that this was going to happen. Like, you never had that one just killer play where all of a sudden it was, oh my God, Tennessee's going to win this thing. It was just play after play. They grinded it out, and more credit to them. They did a good job with it.
One thing I noticed, and I don't know if I've ever seen this happen, but it kind of struck me because I had Tennessee with the 8.5, and I had the under in this game. It's very rare to me when a team gets down by so much and comes back and wins that the under's still good. It was a very rare case to me that I don't think I've ever really seen that happen. Where you're like, oh shit, I got the Titans, but if they come back and KC gets another score and the under's no good, so my parlay's no good, so why am I rooting for this? But this is a rare time where I actually hit a two-teamer where the under stayed good on a massive comeback. I was pretty impressed with that.
That is crazy, and because it's so rare for a team in football to get shut out for an entire half. How often does that happen at any level?
Right. I mean, a field goal. If they get a field goal right there, I lose. Yeah. So it was just, to me, it was crazy. I've never seen. I don't want to say it's more meltdown, but at the fact that it's starting to become such a trend for Andy Reid teams, I don't know. I look at this situation, and I mean, what more does Andy need? I mean, Alex Smith played a near perfect game. He had 2 touchdowns, 260 yards, and I think I don't think he had any picks, and he had no real mistakes. The defense played solid. I mean, at the same time, I mean, while the offense sputtered, the defense played pretty solid. I mean, they're going to give up points. It just is what it is. But I don't know where to look at this. I mean, it almost feels like it falls on coaching at this point.
It has to. And then I think that's the thing, because this isn't the first time we've seen this out of an Andy Reid-led team.
Right.
He is the common denominator for these kinds of defeats. You know, Christ, I forget how long he's actually been in Kansas City, but they've lost, their last 6 home playoff games? There's only one common denominator there, and it's not Alex Smith.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And I think, unfortunately, Alex Smith is going to be the fall guy for this, just because of contract status and because of the fact that Mahomes is in the wings.
Oh, sure.
And do you really want to commit? I mean, I don't have a problem if they committed to him, but do you, Chiefs fan, really want to commit to Alex Smith for the next 4 years and kind of have this Brady situation when you have with Pat Mahomes? Because to me, all Pat Mahomes right now is his potential. And that's all a fan sees right now. It's the same with Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, before he actually stepped on the field and proved himself, he was all about potential. I mean, you and I know Ryan Mallett was all about potential, but we see what he became.
Yeah.
So I think the Chiefs have a real big decision on their hands, is because, I mean, realistically, you could get rid of Alex Smith and the franchise, the fan base will be fine with it, because they just know he's not leading us anywhere we want to go. We've kind of been first round and out, but that's not his fault in my opinion.
No, it can't be. And, I mean, he's got good weapons around him, like Tyreek Hill. We got Travis Kelce, although he got knocked out with the concussion. You can't really fault him for that. Kareem Hunt had a good game. Like, there were good players. They made good plays. It's just, at the end of the day, if you're not scoring for an entire half, something needs to change. And, obviously Andy Reid can make Alex Smith the fall guy for it, and
because he's not gonna ask to get fired. He's not gonna say what's really the problem.
He's not gonna resign on his own.
Yeah,
of course
exactly. But I mean, no good comebacks without 1 or 2 good fluky plays. And I mean, we look at the Super Bowl. I mean, that Julian Edelman catch. If that doesn't happen, the run, the third and it was like 3rd and 2, and they decided to pass when they should have ran. Anyways. But, I mean, the Mariota pass to himself, I mean, that's a kind of play that, like, if you're Alex Smith, you're looking at it. I mean, look at Alex Smith's track record. He's the 2005 number 1 pick, right?
Yep.
He had a couple of bad years, changing coordinators, et cetera. They were not very good. Harbaugh comes in, he instantly becomes better. And he plays well. He plays good enough. They start upgrading the roster. The team gets better. And then he gets hurt. So then here comes Colin Kaepernick. So then bye-bye Alex Smith. So then the Chiefs naturally jump right on him. And I think Reid and Smith came over at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. I have to check on that. But then Alex Smith continues to just be this game manager, which that's a hard label to come off of once you've been given that title. It's you're the game man. But I mean, Alex Smith did everything, in my opinion, to win this game, and I really don't know. I have a hard time putting it on anybody. I just feel like it's one of those fluky games where Kansas City did everything right. I understand they got shut out in the second half, and that's a very strange thing to say when they still played a pretty good game. I mean, they got too conservative. You can put that on the play calling, but at the same time, the fluke plays from Mariota, from just all these situations, the fumble that wasn't a fumble.
Right.
It's just to me, it was just like the perfect storm of Kansas City played fine. It's just the Titans just got all these lucky bounces and that one final leap. I don't know. It's hard to pin this on anybody. It should be pinned on Reed and the coaching staff, but unfortunately, I think it's going to get pinned on Alex Smith. But, Mariota's self-pass. Look at that thing. That was crazy. That was nuts.
That was ridiculous. But I think you're right about the Andy Reid thing. The blame should go on him, but it won't. And especially when a team finishes 10-6, they still won the division, even though, the AFC West wasn't the AFC West.
We thought it was in the beginning. We thought I got to say, we all thought it was the best division with those three teams. And
it should have been.
And then the Broncos should have had a rebound season. But, if you look at it overall, the Chargers had a good season. The Raiders took a step back, which we all naturally thought was the progression. But in the beginning of the season, we thought we had 4 good teams on our hand, and we may have only had 1.5 good teams.
Right, but, and for them to come out and win the division, how do you fire a coach that just won you a division and got you to the playoffs?
The Marty Schottenheimer approach.
Yeah.
Remember that when he went 14-2 and got canned?
That's right, yeah.
I think that was from LA or from when they were in San Diego.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's hard to that was the thing on the other side is because a lot of people thought, now they didn't win the division, but a lot of people thought with Malarkey's team making the playoffs, even if he lost that game, he was going to be fired as well.
Which I still don't understand. You make a division, you make the playoffs in a division where Houston should have had a resurgence, especially with Deshaun Watson, but they fell apart, obviously. Right. Indy should have been good, but, Andrew Luck, I have no idea why he is still hurt.
I don't know if he's, that's a quick question. I don't know if he's necessarily still hurt at this point as far as complete inability to play an NFL football game. But I think by what they had in Jacoby Brissett, and by about week 6, I think they decided we're shutting this down.
Yeah, well, you might be right, especially if the ownership knew that they were going to can Pagano after the season. So.
That too.
Yeah.
He was the whole situation in there was probably decided by week 6, and I think Chuck knew that as well. And actually, Jacoby Brissett probably produced far better than they ever anticipated. So the need to put Andrew Luck on the field at any point there was probably useless.
Yeah, probably screwed up their draft picks.
Yeah. The question though is, do you keep Brissett or do you trade him and see what you can get of value for him?
Yeah, you probably trade him because having even a remotely good quarterback is kind of a rarity in this league at this point. So, anybody that you think that has NFL experience that a team thinks can get them a couple of wins is better than, let's say what the Browns have right now.
Yeah, and like it or not, now Tennessee's going to face New England. I know you and I personally feel a little bit better about facing Tennessee than Kansas City. I talk to a lot of people. They're all familiar with the fact that I'm a Patriots fan. They're like, oh, yeah, you guys got the clear-cut path to the playoff or to the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. It's been proven. Kansas City can walk in a cold environment and beat New England. So why do I feel good about that potentially happening? I don't know. Everybody's, everybody else, and that's the problem I have with fans and people who aren't fan-specific teams or like to talk to you about your team. It's like, everybody's sitting here going, and you listen to it on the Patriots are the clear-cut favorite, blah, 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 and then, of course, all of a sudden this story comes out about the riffs and everything. But to me, I don't know. To me, it doesn't – I don't see this clear-cut path. Yes, they are the prohibitive favorite because, somebody has to be. They're the number 1 seed. They've got the MVP. But to me, if they went down to Kansas City or if they go down to Pittsburgh or, God forbid, Jacksonville somehow comes into New England and beats them – I don't see it as such an atrocity and such this mind-blowing surprise as everyone else is seeing.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with you.
2007, yes, maybe. But, this year, I don't see that as that much of a oh, my gosh.
Well, and that's the thing. Every team in these playoffs are flawed. It's not like any one team is that 16-0 Patriots team from 2007 where you think they just cannot be beat no matter what. I will say, before the playoffs started, I said – if New England has to play both Kansas City and Pittsburgh, New England doesn't make it out of the AFC. I actually had Pittsburgh losing to Minnesota in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
But now with Kansas City going down, obviously New England has an easier time with Tennessee, one would think.
Right.
Because, again,
we just watched what happened on Saturday.
Exactly. So, we could certainly call it for New England. I think it's safer to do that at this point. But I'm still not comfortable. I still don't like the idea of having to play either Pittsburgh or Jacksonville, even though Jacksonville wasn't, exactly putting up gangbuster points on Buffalo this week.
Yeah, that was definitely of the 4 games I watched, or of the 4 games that were there. That was the one I actually woke up too late to watch, so I'm okay with what I missed, although I was rooting for my boy Blake Bortles because, he had to show some UCF love. But the line was 8.5. They didn't cover. 39.5. Obviously, they stayed way under that total.
Oh, yeah.
But, you watched the game. Give me your assessment of what you saw.
I didn't see much, I'll tell you that. It was, I've seen Buffalo enough, and I'm sure you have too as a New England fan, that you know what you're going to get with them.
Right.
It's going to be a grinded out in the trenches type game. It always has been. Tyrod Taylor, if you make him beat you with his arm, he's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. So they have to run it with Shady. They have to let T-Mobile, run his ass off too, which he can do. I mean,
what is T-Mobile?
Tyrod Taylor.
I've
T-Mobile.
Never heard of
Really?
That.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard T-Mobile before.
Yeah. I guess that's what you call a running quarterback with Tyrod
with the first
Taylor.
Name with T. Yeah, nice. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
nice.
No, I like that one. I will say I don't know the severity of his injury, though, so it'll be interesting to see what Buffalo does for a quarterback coming up, because clearly Peterman's not the answer.
No,
is it Peterman? I don't even know the guy's name. Peterman.
The Nathan Peterman experience has not worked out for Buffalo. But, we're looking at what? A game and a quarter?
Yeah, if that.
When did Tyrod go out? Third quarter?
No, it was late in the fourth. I think Peterman only had maybe half a dozen snaps at most. So
I think they're going to take a long hard. I think Tyrod's gone, or T-Mobile as you call him. I think T-Mobile Ty is gone at this point. His contract's just too much to keep him around for the production they're getting.
No, I think that's right, especially because he's okay. Obviously, they made the play. They backdoored their way into the playoffs. Let's be honest. Baltimore was a significantly better team, even though
LA was a significantly better team as well. But
yeah, even though both of those teams were flawed, somehow Buffalo gets in. But yeah,
I think Harbaugh should lose his job on that one. We could go down that rabbit hole another day, but I think Harbaugh should lose his job for not making the playoffs this year.
I could see that. Yeah.
Let's side note here and just give the Bills a round of applause for their only week of playoff football in this century so far.
Yes.
So there you go, the Bills. All right, time to move on to the actual game. Let's go back into it.
Oh yeah.
And Bortles was the leading rusher of all teams. In this game. Like I said, I didn't watch a single snap of this, and just that stat line alone can tell me just how awful the production on the field from both sides was.
It wasn't just that he was the leading rusher on the field, which is weird in and of itself. It's the fact that he rushed for more yards than he threw for.
That's even better.
Which just boggles the mind. How does a team do that? How does a team put up 10 points and win a friggin' playoff game in the NFL?
I think that's a testament to their defense, man. Their defense is fantastic.
Oh, their defense is phenomenal, but still, how does an offense that inept put up 10 points and they still win a game?
I guess they go up against an offense that's equally or more inept.
Right, yeah. That's just... The conventional logic on this game is just gone by about halfway through the first period.
Now, the question I have is, you look back at the beginning of the season, you look back at the Buffalo Bills, they shipped out Sammy Watkins, they shipped out Richie Ragland, whatever his name is, the linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
And it looked, for all intents and purposes, like a complete and total rebuild.
And it probably, not to make everything about the Golden Knights, but that was probably their plan, was they didn't, winning wouldn't have been a priority this year.
Right.
They can set themselves up for the future, get good draft picks, and then all of a sudden they start winning game after game after game, and the GM's plans get screwed up in the best possible way. Well,
and the thing is the only thing really in the NFL that gets screwed up in this point is that single draft pick.
Yeah.
Your place in the line. But we wrote an article on VegasSquares.com, about coaches of the year, and I really didn't put too much stock in it, but McDermott. The fact that he literally purged the team, or the front office purged the team, and he's still able to make the playoffs. What does that do for McDermott and his goodwill with the fans? And also, does that have any effect on Tyrod Taylor? Because, if you look at Tyrod Taylor, obviously we had the one Nathan Peterman experience where he threw 5 picks against the Chargers. If Tyrod Taylor would have come in and won that game versus starting. Because he got benched that game.
Right.
And I don't know. We all still don't know where that came from. Everybody thinks it came from the front office, wherever you believe, whatever. But Tyrod was benched that game. If Tyrod would have won that specific game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they would have been 10-6 at that point. Or would they have been 9-7?
No, I think they finished the season 9-7. So yeah, they would have been 10-6.
They would have been 10-6 at that point. Not really had a playoff controversy.
Right.
Yeah, they're 9-7 They were 9-7.
Yeah.
So if they beat LA, I mean, not saying that Tyrod would have gone in and beat them, but I'm sure he would have not thrown 5 picks in that game.
I think that's a safe assumption. So yeah, I guess
any of that saved Tyrod Taylor's job, I guess, overall.
Well, I think at this point it's if they want to offer him money, is he willing to take a hometown discount to kind of see this not through to the end, but
they're drafting a quarterback too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean they have to
because now they're picks in what, the 20s, the low 20s.
Right.
So I mean, you got to figure maybe Baker's there, maybe Lamar Jackson's there. I mean, is that just another Tyrod Taylor, though? That's the question.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, the flip side of that is, has this offense thus far been tailored to Tyrod Taylor? And therefore, does Lamar
Jackson come in,
fit in,
create better, create a better position with his youth and athleticism,
right? Than a Baker Mayfield. Speaking of Lamar, when I was looking at the mock drafts and everything else, I barely ever saw him go in the first round.
No, he's not a first round talent, but there's a lot of teams. I mean, someone took Tebow in the first round, so there's a lot of teams that do things.
Yeah,
that may not be of the greatest thought process at the time. No, he's probably projected third round or later. What I'm saying is that even if he's there in the third round, I mean, he makes sense as a steal in the third round. Maybe not the 20th or 21st pick, but if he's still around third round, you're right. The offense is centered around Tyrod Taylor, and if you feel that obviously you're going to get this guy, Lamar Jackson, for third round money over having to pay, T-Mobile Ty. I like that one. T-Mobile Ty, have to pay him a new contract. I mean, I think you go with it because at the same time you saw that, this team can compete. Their defense is halfway decent. You're going to have some high round draft picks. It's still always hard to get free agents to come to Buffalo because of the freaking weather.
Oh, yeah.
And but you know what? They never have to worry about having an unreliable fan base.
That's true. And
good God.
And you can buy stock in folding tables because that people are just going to keep buying them after they keep crushing them.
What's a folding table? What's a buffet little folding table go for? Like $50?
Oh, I can't imagine it's even that much.
$30?
I guess it depends on where you get it. If you
I bought that black one sitting in the back of the office here. It was like $35. I mean, $35 a week for 16 weeks. I mean,
that's decent money. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, that's what is that like? That's about $500-600 a year. I mean, just in folding tables, just so you can jump through them and light them on fire. And I don't know. It's just the Bills Mafia. They flat out scare me, and I'm entertained by it.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing is that obviously with the Pats and Bills rivalry, like I've never really had a problem with Buffalo fans, even the psychotic ones on the internet, on Reddit, and whatever else.
Well, usually all you had to do was just show them the ring, have them kiss the rings, and then they never really became a problem. I think they've gotten past that, though. They're like, fuck your rings, we're going to blow shit up.
Yeah. No, and I think, there's a certain respect to any fan base that can stick around in, -20 weather while it's, blizzard conditions. And
while you haven't made the playoffs in a century.
Right, and, they're still out there cheering every game. They're still out there tailgating. They're still out there cracking the tables. And, I gotta respect that.
Now, yeah, of course, it makes for great entertainment, but on the flip side, the mayor of Jacksonville has basically came out with a statement saying that you basically, I don't remember the exact words, but basically you ruined our town. Apparently they were like throwing
I didn't hear that.
They were like throwing shit off boats.
My God.
They trashed the area around Jacksonville Stadium. Apparently the hotels don't want them around anymore. Like
really?
The Bills come into town, so... there's always a side that you don't see in the media, and I understand the Bills want to do that at home and trash their own backyard, but I mean, I don't know. This is the first time I've ever really looked at the other side and said, yeah, I think they might have taken it a little too far at this point.
Yeah, maybe I hadn't heard any of that, although I guess it shouldn't surprise me.
No, it shouldn't surprise. But I mean, we look at the angle from like Barstool and those other media publications, basically sensationalizing this Bills Mafia, and it's hilarious. Don't get me wrong; they're absolutely ridiculously stupid in an entertaining way. But at the same time, you don't think about it's a lot of what we do in our life. We don't think about the flip side and the ramifications and the repercussions of someone else who has to deal with our cleanup. I mean,
right.
And look at the year that Boston won the Stanley Cup. The city of Vancouver got fucking torched.
Oh, yeah. Well, there were rumors that part of that was just there were anarchists in town waiting to, blow shit up no matter what happened. So, whether or not those were just outside agitators or not, I guess maybe is still up for debate. Although this conversation about the Bills Mafia and people from Buffalo being psychotic just reminded me that Gronkowski is from Buffalo. So I guess, yeah. I guess that answers a lot of questions about it.
I mean, it goes back to and I don't want to get political, and I don't want to go down that road, but look at the situation in Ferguson and Baltimore and all those, with the killings and people are sitting there rioting and blowing shit up in their own neighborhoods. I'm like, what are you accomplishing here at this point? You at the end of the day have to go back to this neighborhood and live in it.
Right.
The people who you're protesting against don't. So you're blowing up your own situation. Like when you come down to Jacksonville, I think that's where they created the problem. If you're blowing up Buffalo and you're Bills Mafia and the shit out of Buffalo, fine, that's great. But when you come in, I love Bills Mafia. I love watching it on TV. But this was the first week where I kind of thought I didn't think about when they go to other places and fuck shit up.
Right, and this is probably one of the arguments that they make against having the NBA in Las Vegas. Because remember, 10 or so years ago, we had the All-Star game here, and it was. I don't think I know a single person who worked in the city of Las Vegas, especially on the Strip, that was happy after that weekend.
I was not here during that weekend, but working on the Strip, and I've discussed that with a few people who were here. And you're right, I haven't heard one positive experience from them.
So it'll be interesting to see, especially if we do get an NBA team, how that translates to them coming into the community, or maybe even when the Raiders get here, how they're going to fit in. Because the Golden Knights, it was a lot easier. Not just because, nobody knows who hockey players are anyway, so they're not going to get hounded for autographs.
Right.
But it was, just as the season was starting, it was 1 October, and then they were out at the blood banks and the hospitals and the fire stations saying thank you and everything else. So
it's always been
we instantly had that. Yeah, we instantly had that connection with that team.
Yeah, and the thing is I think the Knights have done it differently, where they're basically. I mean, I've stood outside after games and. They're more of a, hey, if you want to get in depth or get involved or get close to the team, you do that at City National. After the games, it's their time to leave. At least that's the vibe I've gathered from them post game. They do their interviews, they do their, they play the game, they do their interviews, they get dressed, and they go. That's
I can see that.
So if you want more interactive action, you go to City National, and they're always interactive at City National. So you're right. I mean, I look at a basketball team here, and we've got off topic just a little bit, but we'll scroll back into football. But I look at the basketball team here, and you're right. Over an All-Star weekend, it's probably chaos. But over an 82-game season, I don't think you're going to have that kind of weirdness. I don't know exactly what happened here, but you're right. A lot of people were saying, I'll never do it again. If they come, I'd quit my job.
Yeah.
I mean, those are lofty, statements for one 3-day weekend.
Right, and I think a lot of it was the party atmosphere and everything else. I know Scottie Pippen got the nickname "No Tippin' Scottie Pippen."
No Tippin' Pippen.
While he was here, so that was something else. But you're right. I think we're a little astray from the point of this thing.
Well, the last part on that is I worked media when the All-Star game was in Orlando.
Okay.
And I don't have any real inside information because at the time I was literally just covering things that happened inside the arena. So everything that happened downtown. But I did have a few people who worked because I was in college at that time. I had a few friends that worked and went to the bars and stuff, and they said that that was just. It was just a nightmare. Everything was just kind of you just got that bad feeling, bad vibe. Like, you could die tonight, and that's not a good feeling.
Wow.
Yeah. So, well, since there wasn't much to talk about the Bills and the Jags, we kind of got off on a little tangent, but that's all right.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I think our conversation was probably more exciting than the actual game anyway.
Bills-Jags football, You're probably right. The upset Saturday continued with Falcons-Rams. Depending on who you ask, nobody saw this coming. But if you listen to the podcast on Saturday or Friday, depending on when you listen to it, we called it. We called it right here. Well, I did. Anthony did not. I called for Atlanta to move on. I took the 6 points because I'm a pain in the ass. I didn't take the money line, but Falcons won. And to me, it seems like the Falcons might be finally clicking. But let's talk about the game before we go forward with Atlanta and. The turnovers to me were the key. Obviously, the muff punt in the first set up a field goal, and I tend to in these spots, as far as betting, lean towards the guy with experience, and that was neither McVay, Gurley, or Goff.
Right. Truth be told, this was my first time watching a full Rams game this year, so I didn't really know what to expect out of them. And, I got kind of what I expected, a team that was flashy but was inexperienced, that they didn't hang on to the ball, and I don't know if that was just jitters or...
I mean, their stat lines looked good, but at the same time, they were getting field goals when they should have gotten touchdowns, and that's not how, like you said, if you're not playing Buffalo, that's not going to win you a playoff football game.
Exactly, yeah, and especially a team that is historically high flying like Atlanta. You know, Matt Ryan's going to put up points no matter where he goes.
Right.
So that's just not a good enough effort from LA. Although, I mean, credit to them for going, 11-5 this year, and for Goff having an amazing season, which I don't think anybody saw at the beginning of the year.
No, the future's definitely bright in LA, and as they start to garner more experience, they'll start to be more of a force to reckon with, especially in the West. I mean, if you look at it, San Francisco's not there yet. Arizona's obviously rebuilding. They lost their coach and their quarterback.
Yeah.
And their running back's coming off of a huge injury.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Seattle maybe has taken a step back.
Losing Carson Palmer is probably the best thing that could have happened to Arizona. He should have retired 3 years
but I mean
ago.
they're not looking to go into next season with Drew Stanton, so they've got to get somebody completely new at this point. And sources have said Eli. Well, we'll see. I think they're going to go in the draft at this point. Eli could step in there, but I mean, like you just dealt with Carson Palmer for 4 years. Is Eli not the exact same thing?
I mean, he knows how to win where Carson Palmer doesn't.
Well, he still has the talent. I mean, Eli only knew how to win 2 seasons.
No, well,
what did he make the play? What did Eli make the playoffs? 3 seasons? 4 seasons, maybe? Out of his whole career?
Yeah, you might be right about that, actually.
Eli's not as much of a winner as people think. I mean, those 2 flashy 9-7 seasons where they won Super Bowls, don't get me wrong. It is what it is. I mean, as a Pats fan, you can't sit here and say anything else. I mean, they have that trump card over you. That's the one thing I hate about dealing with Giants fans. It's like, we got 5 rings, baby, but where's your other 2? They're sitting on Eli's hand. Oh, it's the worst.
I know.
It's fucking worst.
Yeah, and I'm sure you heard a bunch of that last night if you were in any kind of Patriots gear when you had the Rangers fans around us.
I actually missed the game.
Did you?
Yesterday, yeah. But I heard that it was a great, it was a super split 50-50 atmosphere.
Oh, yeah, and, the Rangers fans lived up to the hype of the super obnoxious New York fans. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure they could say the same thing about Boston fans, too.
Oh, probably.
I tell you, the worst fans I've had, and I didn't go to the Rangers game, but the worst opposing fans that I've experienced inside T-Mobile was Pittsburgh fans.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because they've obviously they hadn't won a cup in 20 years until they won the last 2, and now they're all, holier than thou, which, granted, you have the right to carry the sword right now, but I mean, I don't know. To me, every fan base has those, and like you said, you never know. Like Florida Panthers fans could have been pieces of shit too, but I got lucky, and a couple that I sat around were fine. I guess it was just the few people that I got. You never know. Every fan base has shitholes, so
yeah.
Just so far my encounter with opposing fans, the worst has been Pittsburgh. So.
Wow, that's a little surprising.
But I mean, you looked at the rest of the stadium; they were cheering for Fleury. They were fine. It's just the 3 I had behind me. I guess they were just super salty when they lost. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But the Falcons, moving on forward, they get to face Atlanta without Carson Wentz, and I don't think they could have gone a better draw because the other 2 teams who have to face each other, next week in New Orleans and Minnesota, are playing some of the best football in the NFL right now.
Right, and
so in my opinion, as a 6th seed, they've got a pretty easy road back to the Super Bowl, depending on what exactly happens with New Orleans and Minnesota, but I think Atlanta's got a really easy road back to the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it depends on the winner of the Minnesota-New Orleans game. I think Atlanta playing New Orleans, I probably like Atlanta in that game. Just, we were talking about this off air with New Orleans being a dome stadium. Atlanta knows the New Orleans system pretty well. I think that was going to be a run-and-gun, shoot-'em-up type game, and could easily see just, a 45-42 type
familiarity.
Yeah. So that I could see. I think with Minnesota it would be a little, a little bit more difficult for Atlanta to pull one off up there. I'm still of the impression that Minnesota is the most complete team left in the playoffs right now, and that is including the AFC. So I certainly like them more than I like anybody else at this thing, but we'll see. This has been a crazy playoff year already, and we've only had 1 week of it, so it'll be very interesting to see. But I will say that nothing in the NFC would surprise me. No matter what the matchup is, nothing would actually shock me.
Well, I think you're right. New Orleans and Minnesota are both better teams than Atlanta. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, like I said, I think Atlanta's got an easy matchup depending on certain things that happen. I think Atlanta can get to the Super Bowl facing either of those teams because they're both dome teams at this point. But New Orleans with the familiarity and the ability to, the fact that they play them twice a year, they've beaten them before. I think Atlanta's going to beat Philadelphia next week, and we'll talk about that Friday on the show with Anthony. We'll give our picks. But I think Atlanta, as a 6th seed, with the ability to navigate, they navigated through the playoffs last year. Granted, it was all at home, and they're not a very good team. I mean, they've actually been just as good of a team on the road this year as they have been at home. So I think that favors them this year. I think the adversity, basically after the Super Bowl hangover, they finally get that wake-up call to say, hey, look, we can still get back in this thing. They're the best 6th seed I've seen in a while.
Oh, easily, yeah.
So I think Carson Wentz is just going to prove too detrimental to Philly. And I don't know, Atlanta to me just really feels like it feels almost like a repeat if New England can get there too. I feel like Atlanta's a dark horse candidate to get there. And I know that it's not saying much considering there was only 6 teams to get there, but most people don't give the 6th seed a chance most years, especially with the way Atlanta's had this hangover, which, I mean, if you look at it, we talked about that last week. They went 11-5 last year. They went to the Super Bowl. They went 10-6 this year. I mean, they had a 1-game hangover. It doesn't seem like that much to me. I mean, I know they had some shitty performances inside the Georgia Dome or the Mercedes-Benz Dome, but overall, I mean, if you're telling me 11-5 to 10-6 is a hangover, I don't buy it.
Right. Well, I think part of the problem is their division being so strong. You go 10-6 and you're somehow 3rd in the division.
Right.
That's going to look bad. No matter how you pull it off, that's not going to look good for you. So I think it was just the fact that their division just all of a sudden woke up and New Orleans and Carolina started winning games. Yeah,
it's true. And but Matt Ryan's got him playing good ball. Julio had a good game. Devontae and Coleman are a two-headed monster that are really hard to stop week to week. So I don't know. We'll see what Atlanta does because next week they might get blown out by Philadelphia, and everything I just said was for nothing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Because Philadelphia's strength is their defense.
Exactly.
So,
and they're at home and they got a good crowd behind them. And Nick Foles isn't a slouch. I mean, he has started a playoff game.
Yeah.
Didn't win it, but he did start it.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of thing where we're probably shitting on Foles for no really good reason. I mean, Carson Wentz is obviously the better option. I mean, that's just without question. But Foles can win games for them, and like I said, nothing would surprise me based on how the NFC shapes up. So
it's a weird game to handicap right now. It's at 2.5 to 3 at most spots. So I'm going to give myself a couple more days to actually make a pick on that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how many Philadelphia fans, bring batteries into the stadium and actually hit Matt Ryan in the head with them. So
I think if Atlanta just brings a version of Santa Claus and puts him in the corner, Philly fan will just focus on that, and then they won't have to worry about anything, so they can play their football game. But the Falcons with the upset beat the Rams. The Rams have got a lot to look forward to. Obviously, I'm sure Rams fan will just look at this as a disappointing defeat, but I mean, look where you were last year as far as 4-12, and now you're 12-4, 11-5, and hosting a playoff game. It's only looking more trending upwards for them as they approach their new stadium.
Yeah, 11-5, and especially with that division, is not what it used to be. Seattle's old, and if you believe Wickersham at ESPN, nobody believes in Russell Wilson anymore. So,
but this fucking guy, I mean, where does he concoct these stories? Nobody believes in Wilson. I think Wilson. I mean, you could make a strong case. You can make a legitimate case that he was the MVP this year.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's just. I'm being somewhat facetious, dropping his name just to try to get us more hits.
What were your thoughts on New England when this story was posted?
I knew it was bullshit right from the beginning because the only thing I needed to read was Brady being upset about or not getting Patriot Player of the Week. It's like, first of all, that award doesn't exist.
Second of all, he's got 5 Super Bowl rings.
Right. So he's got 5 Super Bowl rings and 3 or 4 MVPs. All of his MVPs he's donated to the Patriots Museum at Foxborough. And there is a Patriot Practice Player of the Week, but Brady's not eligible to win it. It only goes to people on the scout team and the practice squad. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is nonsense. This is just complete and utter garbage. And I actually stopped reading the rest of the article after that, so I have no idea what else was in there.
Well, I've seen 2 different conspiracy theories on the whole Garoppolo getting traded situation. I don't know if either of them is true, but let me know where you would lean more towards.
All right.
Obviously, the first one is the whole Brady or Belichick was ready to move on from Brady, blah, 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 after this year or before this year. And obviously Kraft was saying, no, Brady's basically with 5 Super Bowls earned the right to go out whenever the fuck he wants. And I think you and I would agree on that. And basically Belichick said, okay, hold my beer. I'm going to ship off my 2 quarterback assets for next to nothing. They got a second-round pick and Philip Dorsett, which, let's be honest, Philip Dorsett has done absolutely nothing this year.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you're right about that.
And the second-round pick, who knows what it could be. I still think potentially if he slips in the draft, I would love it to be Baker Mayfield at this point. But that's conspiracy theory number 1. Conspiracy theory number 2 And this one's good.
All right.
This is the one I've heard. This is not. This has been by casual fandom. Conspiracy theory number 2 is that the Falcons, through Super Bowl 51, well, Kyle Shanahan most notably, just wait. I see your face.
I know where this is going.
I see your face.
Oh my God.
Kyle Shanahan most notably through Super Bowl 51, knowing he was getting the 49ers job.
Oh my God.
With a backdoor handshake deal that he would get Garoppolo for pennies on the dollar as a thank you for giving Belichick his 5th ring.
Wow. As soon as you mentioned Shanahan's name, I knew where you were going.
And commence.
Wow.
Which story is less absurd?
I mean,
exactly. Which story is less absurd at this point?
No, I don't see it. The thing with New England and Boston sports is that they're going to reward hard work always. Like, one of the guys that's revered in that town is Trot Nixon.
Oh, I love that guy.
Exactly. He was
only player I know who wore his hat inside of his back pocket when he batted. not many people know that.
Yeah. But I mean, guys like that, guys like Doug Mirabelli, a backup catcher, gets a police escort to make it to Fenway Park after he gets traded back to the Red Sox so that he can start the game against the Yankees.
Matthew Slater, another one.
Yeah. I mean, these are guys that are, they're workhorses. They go out there, they do their job. They don't complain about it, and people in New England love him for it. Even a guy like Trot Nixon, who's probably a career 240 hitter.
He was an average player at best.
Right.
On the right team.
So, you get a guy like Brady who's doing that exact same thing, where he's out there every day. He doesn't complain. He doesn't, go to the media and start airing his dirty laundry and everything else. And he's going out there and playing as potentially the best to ever play the game. Nobody in New England's going to screw him.
And still playing the best this season.
Yeah.
Because, I still think, despite what his December stats were, I still think he was the most valuable player on any team in this league this year.
Oh, definitely. So it's one of those things where I just, it's to the point where the fans, regardless, if Brady goes, 2-4 and 6 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he gets benched, the fans are still going to riot because it's still Brady.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think the fans are smart enough that they realize that, it's going to take a lot. I think Brady's going to see the writing on the wall before, realistically, he lets it happen. Is that 3 years from now? Is that 5 years from now? Is that next year? What do you think it takes, especially if you believe any truth to the rumors, and now that the cupboard's bare, in most people's cases, it's just Brady and Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
What do you think it would take next year for Belichick to do that? Does it take an 0-6 start, 0-5 start, 0-4 start? Does it take does it take a 4-4 start?
Barring a catastrophic injury, it probably takes. It would depend on the way the schedule shapes up, but it would have to be not only winless, but winless with divisional losses in order for Brady to get benched. If he's losing to teams in the NFC or the AFC North, let's say, those kinds of things, you can still kind of excuse it.
Let's look back at when they lost the Chiefs. Everybody was like, "This is over.
Oh yeah,
it's done."
Well, some of the panicky Petes were, but Belichick was still.
I'm talking about the
solid.
Chiefs a couple years ago when they won the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
In Week 1, of course, everybody was because the problem everybody had in the beginning of this year was they're with their signings with Cooks and with Stephon Gilmore, they're going 16-0, no doubt about it. And I'm like, come on, that's such a rare feat. It's happened twice.
Oh yeah.
In the entire history of football.
I've actually heard conspiracy theories that say that Belichick lost the game on purpose to get rid of that 16-0 talk.
Yeah, it's the only team you look at in NFL football right now that has conspiracy theories swirling around over just nonsensical items.
Kind of love it.
Let's look at that last game of Wild Card Weekend, and it was the Saints Panthers. That was probably the best game I watched. No disrespect to Tennessee, but the best game I watched was the Saints Panthers game. Just back and forth. The Saints win. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but they did it. They beat the Panthers 3 times. Cam Newton looked fine. As far as I'm aware of, I really don't see an X factor in this game. The Panthers, both the Panthers and the Saints had 400 yards of offense. Their defense has played well enough to win. just one of those games. Like, I mean, there was no rushing out of the New Orleans, which has been their MO this whole year.
Yeah.
It was just a really well fought, hard, grind them out game on the turf. Nobody really made a mistake, in my opinion.
Right, and I think that was kind of the thing, that this was a game for the fans to sit back and watch and enjoy, rather than it being, about fundamental football.
Yeah, there was no real scandals or any kind of that in this game. It was just a good football game. I mean, Cam didn't have. I mean, he got hit 12 times, 4 sacks against him, so he really had problems in the pocket. But I don't think Cam blew this game. I don't think Drew Brees won this game. I don't think the coaching did anything wrong. I just think that you're right. I think that two high-powered offenses scored points, and the Saints were just on the better end at that point.
Yeah, and I think the bigger credit goes to the much improved New Orleans defense. Because they knew that they were going to give up points to Carolina. Everybody gives up points to Carolina. New England lost to Carolina this year.
Yep.
So, that was going to happen. But I think the fact that they were able to hold them under 30 is a major coup for that New Orleans defense that, just 2, 3, 4 years ago was considered possibly the worst defense in the history of the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, they were not good for a better part of a decade.
Oh yeah, their defense was terrible for a number of years. Even when they won the Super Bowl, their defense wasn't phenomenal by any stretch. So the fact that they've been able to turn that defense around and give Drew Brees a chance to not only get back to the playoffs but actually win some games and have a deep run, I think speaks volumes about what that team's been able to accomplish off the field.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, they've got just as good of a chance at this point as any team left in the NFC to win it. And you're right. I just feel like how many years of that potentially could have been wasted, of Drew Brees' career. Oh, by the way, update: Georgia's ahead 13-0 on Alabama right now.
Hey, all right. I didn't see that coming, but again, I don't follow college football, so what the hell do I know?
Sorry, let me break it down. The Georgia women's Ice Devils are ahead. Let's see, 13 compared to 2-0 halfway through the second over the Alabama Sin Bin sisters. Did I women's hockey it up there for you?
I appreciate that, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, you look at these matchups. Now Minnesota is going to have to get New Orleans in, and, that's a different matchup than what they had week one. Sam Bradford was in the game week one, beat New Orleans 29-19. That was a different New Orleans team.
Yeah, absolutely. This New Orleans team looks nothing like they did at the beginning of the season.
So, I mean, we got the matchup set for divisional weekend. You got Atlanta, Philadelphia, Tennessee, New England. Those are the Saturday games. Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and New Orleans and Minnesota. Those are the Sunday games. We've got some big spreads, and we've got some not so big spreads. I was surprised to see 7.5 come out of Pittsburgh against Jacksonville, considering what happened last time.
Yeah, that seems absurd to me. You got to like Jacksonville plus the 7 or 7.5. Yeah, I guess 7.5.
The consensus is 7.5, but it depends on where you can find it.
Yeah.
The Wind's got it at 7. William Hill's got 7.5. Mirage 7.5. Westgate 7.5. The consensus is 7.5. A few places have 7.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that 7.5.
Oh, Columbus Blue Jackets won. That was a bet of mine today.
Oh, there you go.
They were down 2-0 late in the third, so they came back and won in overtime. So that always feels like a big victory when you basically have washed your money away, and then all of a sudden you look on the sports app and you've won money. So
yep. I've already got a text from a buddy of mine who's a big Columbus fan, so he's probably rubbing it in.
Why would he rub it in? I mean, you're not a Toronto fan.
Well, no, but he just, whenever Columbus wins, me and a buddy of mine who's a Red Wings fan, we get instant text messages saying how great the Blue Jackets are.
That's an oxymoron. They've been good for, 3 years of existence?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I like
good for him. I
like that cannon they have, though.
That is pretty cool. What is a Blue Jacket? That's the Civil War thing, right?
Yeah, there's some kind of, special regiment out of the Civil War or Revolution. No, it's got to be Civil War. I don't know. Yeah. I actually looked this up maybe 6 months, a year ago, but I'm not smart enough to actually remember what I read.
I looked it up, too, one time. I think it has to do with the Civil War, and I think it's just the Union Army, and I think they just wear blue. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're going to discuss the divisional weekends matchups on Friday, and we're going to look and see the line movement and make our picks on Friday. But, Spike, your early thoughts, you can either take them against the spread or just straight up. I mean, if you have to look at these games. Who do you like this weekend? Yeah,
I'm liking Atlanta, probably money line, like we said, Atlanta's -3, sorry. Atlanta, actually, I might still go money line, just because Philadelphia's defense is their strength, so I think points will come at a premium.
That's got to be disrespect, right? I mean, Philadelphia did everything they could to get the number 1 seed in their first game. They're already a 3-point dog to a team that, struggled, quote unquote, to make the playoffs.
Right. Well, it shows you what the bettors and the line makers think of Nick Foles.
Yeah, clearly. You're basically saying that you're a 6-point dog to this team. You just happen to have home field advantage.
Right. But it's still...
I think that's a slight to the rest of the team. That number I'm going to monitor until Friday. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, it'll be very interesting to see where that actually goes because I think a lot of money is going to come in on Atlanta. So we'll have to see how that ends up. But actually, I'm looking at... I have one line that says 44, and I have another that says 41.5 for a total in that game.
It opened at 44. It's now down to 41.5.
Okay, so that's...
Are you looking on Insider?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the open. I see.
The one on the left is the opening line.
Yeah, I get you. That makes a lot more sense. All right, so yeah.
That'd be a hell of a disparity.
I was like, yeah, that's a huge, huge gap there. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that goes throughout the rest of the week, and especially where the sharp money goes on that one, because I'm very curious to hear how that plays out. Let's see. As far as Tennessee and New England, New England could win this game 45-10. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So, but again, probably not touching that one because don't touch Patriots games as a Patriots fan because you never know if you're betting with your head or your heart.
That's probably a good assessment.
Yeah.
The game's got enough drama in it for you.
Yeah. And then I just think we talked about the Jacksonville game earlier, and then New Orleans, Minnesota. That's probably not one I'm going to bet on either way, but I think I like Minnesota. I just, for as improved as New Orleans is, I think I said it before. I think Minnesota's still the most complete team that's out there right now, and I could very easily see them not only getting past this, but coming out of the NFC and representing them for the Super Bowl, having the Super Bowl home field advantage, which, as far as I know, has never happened before.
That is true. It has not happened before. They're looking to be the first, and they've got a good road, like you said. My initial thoughts on this would be to go to my patented William Hill 14.14 teaser. I would go, if it's at 3 with Philadelphia, I'd take them to plus 17.
Oh, God.
I would take New England basically to plus 1, so win the game.
Yep.
I would take Jacksonville to a 21.5-point dog.
Wow.
And I would take instead of taking the point, or instead of taking the spread there, I would take the New Orleans Minnesota game down to an over 31.
Okay.
So that would be my thought process in this initially. I'll have more of a definitive bet on Friday, but if you're listening now, that's my initial opening thoughts on divisional weekend. So, Spike, what else, man? What else you got, brother?
Well, obviously we could talk hockey till the cows come home, but I don't know how interesting that is for everybody else. I know there was a report that was put out by UNLV maybe 6 months ago that talked about sports betting in Nevada. Hockey is such a low percentage, it wasn't even included as a category. It was football, baseball, basketball, parlays, and other.
Well, I'm surprised parlays are fourth at that point, given all the square money that we have. I mean...
But hockey betting, they estimated about 1.5% of all sports betting.
Has that gone up any with the Knights at all?
I think futures have gone up, but I don't think game by game it's really gone up all that much.
Well, I've got the Knights at 200-1 to win the Cup, so my futures set. Thanks, Camille. My futures are set as well. I'm hoping to. I don't know if I'm going to hedge that. I mean, I might just obviously the first round I'm going to obviously let it ride, but I might hedge it starting in the second round. Those are just long series, 7-game series, all four.
Oh, yeah.
It's a long,
Yeah, it's tough when you don't have that one superstar that can really carry you home that seemingly every team that's won the Stanley Cup in the last 20 years has had.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I almost feel like the one superstar kind of mentality with the exception of actually, no, I can't think of any lately. I mean, I know you're thinking about like Crosby, but I mean, I think their whole team has won the last 2 Cups. Matt Murray has been more of a factor than Crosby in the last 2 Cups.
No, I mean, that's true, but you still have that Crosby aspect.
Sure, you still have a guy you have to game plan for. I don't think you have any guy that you need to take out as far as from the Golden Knights.
Yeah, unless you're just Detroit and you want to just knee Fleury in the head again and then not have no penalty called and knock him out for 2 months.
Yeah, I'm actually curious. I'm trying to find a Stanley Cup champion that was literally just one guy just having a monumental, like Cup run. I mean, it doesn't really come off the top of my head. I mean, the Blackhawks are a team, kind of a team game. Kings, Blackhawks, and Penguins have been the last, 6 Cups?
Yeah, minus Boston.
I mean, Patrice Bergeron had a really sick run in 11.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know. Hockey, to me, is the ultimate team game.
Oh, absolutely. But
hockey and football.
You still have those, that one guy.
I mean, if you look at it last year, I think it was Connor Sheary or no, Jake Gensel had like 12 goals in the Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to look at a guy who had a great run, it was Jake Gensel, who was I think he was a rookie last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Wasn't he? Yeah. Actually, he might be eligible as a rookie this year. Let's see. I don't know how to spell his name.
I don't either.
Yeah, there we go. Whoops, that's not it. Just looking up some random guy with a misspelled Gensel is in the white pages, apparently.
Oh, Gensel. No, he played 40 games last year.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. He had 16 goals, 17 assists. In the playoffs, he had 12 goals, which is crazy.
That's absurd.
So, a point being is that, as far as, in my opinion, baseball, you can have look at Ortiz in 2013. He essentially carried the Red Sox in the World Series to a title. I think everybody else batted a collective like sub 200, and he batted like 750. That's nuts. I mean, it's harder. It's hard in baseball. Don't get me wrong, because you've got 25 guys who have to make your team complete. But I think between hockey, hockey, I guess you could say it could be a more of a one man band. But I only liken that really to the goaltender. If you have a goaltender like J.S. Jaguar back in the 2000s or Matt Murray the last 2 years who have just stood on his head and just don't let anything in.
Yeah, but you're still going to have that one guy that, it's always going to draw a double team for you when you're on the offensive side of the ice. You're always going to have that one superstar forward that people are going to, their eyes are going to get just a little bit wider when they see him coming down the ice in like a 2-on-1 or 3-on-2, something like that. So even if they're not putting up the numbers like, the Crosbys of the world.
Make the game plan around him.
Right, yeah. You're still going to have to prepare for him because,
Fair enough. And I think that's what happens with Ovechkin. If you take Ovechkin out of the game, they're not good enough around him to get to the Stanley Cup or even get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, God, they're a mediocre team at best without Ovi.
Yeah, so anywho, well, that's our thoughts that we recapped the wild card weekend, and we gave you a little preview of divisional. We'll give you more picks this Friday coming up. Be sure you listen to the show. You can catch it on the Vegas Squares website. You can catch it on YouTube. You can catch it on 12 Ounce Sports Radio. It'll be on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. Also, you can interact with us on Twitter at Vegas Squares. You can interact with Spike at Spike McAwesome. He checks it about once every third blue moon.
I read Twitter all the time. I'm not usually too active on there.
Well, we got to get Spike more active. So,
right.
So interact with Spike on Twitter at Spike McAwesome.
Yeah, send me anything you want. I don't actually care.
Taiwanese.
All right, I take that back. I do read this at work. So
chicks with penises?
Yeah, let's tone it down a notch or two, please.
Let's leave it to the SFW, safe for work aspect. Cause
there we go.
You don't want to be getting some Taiwanese, what's the word I'm looking for? Tranny hookers.
Yeah, the lady boys.
The lady boys.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually in Thailand for my honeymoon. I didn't see too many of them. They weren't advertised, let's put it that way.
Oh, I didn't. I figured you weren't probably out looking for them.
Yeah, well, no.
I'm sure if you were, you could find anything you're looking for. Probably in Bangkok or Thailand or wherever. Did you go to Bangkok?
We were in Phuket, which is beach resort area.
It's spelled like fuck it.
It's spelled like fuck it, but it's Phuket, Phuket. It's paradise. It's easily the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. And if I had just fuck it money so I could go retire, I'd just buy a beachfront condo and live there forever.
A lot of poker guys were doing that for a while.
Yeah, because I heard
the living's real cheap there.
Oh, it's super cheap. Even in the tourist areas, it's not overly expensive. Like, we got the super nice place at a resort, and it was still only like $200 a night.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, but you can live like a king for like $20 a day.
All right. Well, if you ever want to say fuck it to America, you go to Phuket, Thailand.
That's
live
right.
Like a king. So, this has been another edition of the Vegas Squares. Thanks for Spike. Thanks to Spike for coming aboard. Obviously, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, you're a host. I don't know why I thought you were like.
I don't know. I mean, I still feel new. It's only like what, third time here?
Nah, you're a host. We don't thank you for coming on. We're like, where the fuck you at? Like Anthony, like where the fuck you at? You should not be sick. Let's go.
Yeah, no, he probably had a couple of ladies of the evening coming over, so
Taiwanese lady boys.
He can't. Well, whatever,
whatever floats his boat or finds his lost remote.
Yeah, whatever blows your skirt up in this crazy world,
It is Vegas, by the way. He does live, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember exactly where he lives, but he does live pretty close to the 24-hour massage parlors. So.
Oh,
down in the Chinatown.
Yeah, I've always wanted I've had like super long poker sessions that get over at like 4 a.m. Driving through Chinatown, I see these places open, and every once in a while I'm like, God, how awkward would it be if I just wanted a legitimate massage? And what's the language barrier going to be like if they start, fiddling around down there? I'm like, no, just massage. Like, I don't know how that's going to play out.
I'm pretty sure you could just get the massage. I'm sure they'd probably be like, most of the time, that probably guys go in there at 4 a.m. looking for the total package. I'm sure they'd probably be relieved, and some guy just walking there like, no, I just want a third of the package.
Right.
I just want the rub down, but not the rub off.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't made a pit stop to find out. To me, I don't know. It's just, to me, it would seem weird. You have those thoughts, obviously. Oh, happy ending, huh? I don't know. If I ever stepped foot in one, I think it would. To me, it would be a little awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd be able to stop giggling if I ever did that. But I get a buddy of mine that's a true degenerate pervert, and I thought for sure that he would have done this, but he claims he never has, and he just got married about 6 months ago. So
now he's gonna start.
Yeah. Maybe, dude, he is hitting way, way, way above his weight class with his wife.
Way to outkick the coverage. Buddy.
Yeah. Oh my God, he does not deserve her.
I'll tell him to listen to make sure he knows he said that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since you've all already turned off your radio or the broadcast at this point, we're gonna wrap it up here. And thanks for listening to another episode of the Vegas Squares.
I kind of forgot the mics were still on, to be honest.
Yeah. Whoopsie. We will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in.